Hello and welcome to my channel. Well, I'd like to say right out from the start, this is not a case bashing video. I like case. As a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite traditional knives to collect. I say one of because in sheer volume and variety, my most collected traditional knife company is Rough Rider. If you look at my playlist, man, I got a ton of Rough Rider videos, and the other ones, it's double digit on Rough Rider. I mean, triple digit. All the other ones are single or double digit. But that's only because I just recently started collecting case. Now, one of the things is, I've mentioned before, is case will usually supply you with a working edge on their knives. This one's not bad on the main blade. Now, let's go with the sheep's foot. And what we're going to see here is something that I don't consider an issue, because if the factory edge, you see this tip, how it's almost not even coming to an edge there? Get him to focus. You see that? You know how you fix that? I'm going to take this angle right here. What I usually do is I look at the two angles on them. There's ways of measuring. Man, if you know trigonometry, I can tell you how you can. It's not easy. I have to do the formula. But you can take the blade thickness, the behind the edge thickness, and this distance right here, and measure it and calculate it out. It's like you got to use inverse sine, which I didn't think I had on my calculator, but it's on the secondary function. But I'm going to fix that. All right. So all it takes on this is sharpening. Now, some people never sharpen their knives because it's a collection. They'll leave it like this. To me, this is what I'm going to use the most on a knife, on a sheep's foot a lot of times. Sometimes here, but a lot of times right down here. This is almost like a worn clip in the way I would use it. You know, you just tip. And for me, the tip has got to be sharp. I mean, I need an edge on it. I don't want it to come to something like that. So you just fix it. All right. Kind of the same situation on this edge right here. You can see the angle is good. It's not easy when you get it on a curve to maintain everything, but look at this. This one just went blunt. I mean, you want it blunt here for a spade blade, but for me, you would want the tip sharp. Anyway, all it's going to take to fix that is sharpening. And I can get a really sharp edge using the Work Sharp belt system, but for pocket knives, I'm going to use the Work Sharp just a basic precision guided one. Now they've got one with an angle gauge on it, which is a really good idea. I've got an angle gauge. I can do that. But like I said, to me, when I'm going to set up an edge a lot of times, I don't want to take off too much metal. So I look at the place where the widest angle is, and I say, if you want to make it consistent, you're going to have to go with the widest point. You can't take this narrowest point right here and make it the same unless you want a secondary bevel edge type of thing going on, you know, where this is your main edge, this little angle right here, which to me, if I was to guess, let me zoom this guy up a little bit more so don't look at that, look at this. I don't know, this looks like about a, see, the angles are not the same. But you fix that by sharpening, all right? I mean, you can sit there and say, I want a perfect edge from the factory, but if you're going to use your knife, sooner or later you're going to have to sharpen it. And the first time I sharpen a knife or anything, I try to set up the edge angles consistent. What I mean by consistent is, you know, like this angle is the same as that angle, and it consistently goes all the way down. And I mean, it's not always easy. Usually a lot of times you're going to have to take up a lot of metal down here because they don't always sharpen right down on the edge. Not necessarily on this knife, but I mean on all knives. And then if it's got any kind of a curved tip, it usually gets kind of wonky. Now, I don't think I've sharpened this Rough Rider. I'm just going to pull it out as an example. Comparison example. I have sharpened this one. We can't really use this one as a... But that's what I like to get them to, is something like this. Now, a lot of times you'll see this styrations in here. This is from the original factory edge. Looks like I touched this one up or something. I don't know. Let's go to the pen blade. I'm sure I didn't mess with the pen blade. If I carry a knife a lot, I'll change the edge on it. Now this is a factory edge right here. That's not bad. Yeah, this isn't a bad factory edge right here. Something like this, I would just hone it, you know, with like a ceramic rod or something like that. I wouldn't change the angle at all on that knife. All right, let's get some more over here. Here's a GEC. Well, I know I haven't, I might have sharpened this one too. I'm not afraid to sharpen my knives because they're not collectors. Now see how thin and narrow this is, but it's consistent. It's just a, yeah, that is very consistent. I think it's a little thinner up here. Man, I can't tell if I've sharpened this one or not. Let's zoom in some. This one's a Patty's potato peelers. See right there? Patty's potato peelers. I didn't know I know he likes GEC a lot, but I didn't know that they would put a stamp on there. Yeah, so this one's only got one blade, and it's nice and sharp. And sorry, I don't remember if I've sharpened this one or not. I believe I have. This one I know I have. And this is a marbles. Let's take a look at it. We're just looking at edges. Now, yeah, this is a factory. It's a factory edge right there. And so is that one. Not bad. See, they got a little bit of a curve here. A lot of times if you're doing this by hand or even by machine, anytime you come to a curve, a lot of times the angle starts changing. I don't know if it's because of the stones or the way the knife is sitting in the fixture. All right, let's get another. This was my first case that I bought, and I have sharpened it. Another thing I've noticed with Wharncliffes is you have to be very careful on sharpening. I don't know if I sharpened this one. See, you see this styrations on there? I think I just honed it. I know I've stropped it. The tip. If you start taking up too much metal, you're going to start losing that straight edge of the Wharncliffe on a Wharncliffe. If it stays consistent all the way down, yeah, you'll still have that. It just won't have as deep of a belly. But a lot of times, I've missharpened Wharncliffes to where the angle gets too wide on the tip. And what'll really do that a lot is a belt sander. If you pull it too far past the belt, like they say, all right, this is my finger is the width of the belt. That's as far as you should go on a belt sander when you're sharpening a knife. If you pull it all the way up like this, it's going to round the tip off. And believe me, I've made that mistake a lot of times. A thing to remember about mechanical removal of material is it happens fast. Mistakes happen fast, the material comes off fast. Hand sharpening, you can see, you know, hey, I'm starting to make a mistake here, you know, before you get carried away. So that's just a word of caution there. All right, let's look at another Rough Rider. So this is just about edge angles, you know, and how you use them. That's good. Yeah, that's good. I like that type of edge there. That to me is very usable. I'm not gonna, unless you have some specific reason, like you decide that even though it's a consistent edge on the knife, the angle's too wide for you. It's like 35 or 40 degrees. Yeah, it's consistent, but it's more like something you would use on an axe than a knife. You want usually a smaller edge behind the edge angle, I mean, for this one, you could easily start off with 20 degrees. It just depends on the kind of work you're doing, because usually, like I say, I'm using a pocket knife for pocket knife stuff. And if I have a thicker stuff, I'm going to either bring a bigger knife with me or an axe or a saw, But, yeah, I just wanted to bring that out. I'm not going to go through all. Here's another case knife. Like I said, this is not a bash on case. See, that's a factory edge right there. Usually they can get anybody will be able to get a nice consistent edge on a straight edge. They'll be able to do a nice edge for you right there. Yeah, this is still and it's sharp. It's sharp too. I think they call this the tribal. I like this, it's like it has the copperhead type of, is this a copper lock? I think it is, because it's got the copperhead shape to it. Well, what's the tribal lock? Sorry, I don't know all my case knife stuff, but man, I love this handles on this one. Yeah, I'm gonna start carrying this one again. You forget when you got all these knives and stuff, you go looking through them and it's like, wow, man, why am I not carrying this one more? You've got basically a locking copper lock, single blade, everything I want. This is the way to do a Wharncliffe, see? When I got this one, I got Wharncliffe, but really, to me, this starts looking more like a sheep's foot than a Wharncliffe. I mean, it's kind of in between. Yeah, it's got that, but this. Which do you think would be more aerodynamic? This one, it almost like starts from here and goes all the way back. Here, the curvature just starts right here past the nail neck. Or at the nail neck, really. This one, look how long of a curve you've got. Yeah, now, as far as cutting edge goes, guess what? They're both the same cutting edge. But to me, this one looks longer. This one's probably more stabby, especially because you can't stab too much with the slip joint. It'd be known as the 3-finger stabber. But with one of these, you could if you had to. And I like the little, this is what number here? It's a 61549WLSS. The L's for locking, the W's for warning. There's, all these little codes. Let's see how many dots we got here. Come on, identify yourself. Focus. You know how my eyes look most of the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots? Maybe the dots go down here. Oh yeah, so you gotta watch on case. This is a 10 dot. Right? Ow. Sorry, my eyes a lot of times, I have a hard time looking at stuff. But yeah, I like this. I mean, they're a lot more expensive. Now, some people may look at it and say, well, Rough Rider only pays $15 for that, and look at the edge they got on there. Yeah, there's a difference. I can show you bad examples of Rough Riders too. Like this particular Congress right here. This is where I first learned about blade wrap, because every blade was getting a wrap on it, and I started I figured, oh, all you do for blade wrap is you sharpen it. No, not really. No, that doesn't always solve it. Sometimes blade wrap is pretty bad. But yeah, I sharpened every one of these blades, and I said, there, I fixed it. And then I did this. And I got a blade wrap. I think I fixed it on this now. But I mean, that kind of turned me off on Congresses and stuff like this. Because, yeah, only one blade came out decent with no wrap, and the rest, all other three did. Did that stop me from buying Rough Riders or anything? No. No, I just realized that, you know, you have to look at it. If you've got a Congress and 4 blades have got blade wrap on it, return it. Get a replacement if you can, you know, because believe me, the fix on it is not worth the amount of time and effort and hassle you have to go through most of the time. I mean, if it's a pattern that they no longer have and you like it so much, you've got to have it. It's part of your collection and everything. I'd work on that hump down there, because that's what's giving you the blade wrap, is that little hump for this pin right there on the mainspring is always raised up a little bit. And if the kick is not high enough, I mean, there's ways of fixing it, but it's usually take care of that, and you won't have to mess with your blades as much. You can build up more area on your kick, but anyway. Or you can ease them down, like a lot of people do. But to me, that defeats the purpose. Like I said, I disagree with a knife. My personal belief is the knife has been designed incorrectly. If it will not do under its own spring pressure, if it can't survive that without blade wrap, to me, that knife was not built properly. Either the liner with the stuff was too high, or the guy who was fitting it took too much off on the kick. He ground, you know, because they get a wide kick on there, and it built by hand. I imagine somebody's fitting these things, and you got to give them a break too, you know, considering how many they're probably turning out each day, and how many you expect to be perfect and stuff for the price. And that's where people get, you know, they start bashing case. Well, this one's, you know, like 3 times the price, and they should pay more attention, and blah, blah, blah. They're turning out a lot, and it's American made. I mean, so right off the bat, you've got to add at least the price of the knife to this one for American made, because labor costs and regulations and everything else are a lot different in China than they are in the United States. The United States has to follow OSHA regulations. The United States has to, you know, pay their employees health care and all this other stuff. I don't know. I personally don't know about, you know, the Rough Rider factory and their employees and all that. They may have health care, you know. I'm just saying, it's when you've got like 4 billion people, you've got a bigger labor force. Your labor is going to be cheaper than you've got. America's what, 330 million compared to 4 billion? I don't know, I think it's around 4 billion, the Chinese population, but still. Yeah, labor cost has a lot to do with the final step of the product. And I've seen how Case does these, and somebody's sitting there with a belt sander and going like this. And they look at it, and they put it in the thing. That's pretty good for doing by hand. I don't know if they're still doing it by hand, but man, be consistent like that. Especially when you've got to turn it. You know, when you go like here, this is when people mess up the angle. You can be fine like this, keep it parallel. But then when you go like this, a lot of people tip it up, tip it down, and that's going to change the angle. So, yeah, it's kind of like that saying, you know, before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their moccasins, you know. So anyways, there you go. That's my little rant or talk about edge angles and what I'm going to do about it. I would sit there and say, hey, you know, put it in the sharpener and fix it, show it and everything, but I've already rambled on too long. I've noticed YouTube has got this one selection where on the top, you know, where you select all your videos, and one of them is under 10 minutes. It's like this TikTok thing, where people are just not going to watch your videos if it's too long. I can understand, you've only got so much time on your break a lot of times, and you want to watch a video, and it's like, wow, I can't start watching these video. I'm not going to be able to finish, in my break time. All right, but all I'm saying is, for me, I'm not going to let that guide my content. I'm strictly going to be, under 10 minutes every time. I'd like to, because a lot of this is just me running my mouth off and not saying a whole lot. But anyway, I consider sometimes maybe you want to hear some of that, my ramblings, because, I don't know, you're not going to hear it from anybody else because it's unique a lot of times. Well, I get the same, I'm not saying I'm super great or anything. I'm going to toot my own horn. Can you still see Peppy? See, senor. See, he's pretty good, even though I think they've got like an inner, even though he doesn't blink and everything, I think he's got like an inner eyelid that if things get too bright for him, he can just shut that off and his eyes are still open, look like they're still open, but you're not blinding him. So yeah, if you want a review on those cheap flashlights at Workhos or Soper and Sons with batteries, at least one of them. I know they send a smaller one with the 14500s, and I need to order those. Danny Dino didn't do too bad of a job doing a review on them. I mean, he didn't give you all the specifications and the weights, but he covered a lot of the different features of that flashlight. So check out Danny Dino's special if you want to see a flashlight review done by a dinosaur. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.